Marcus Chen adjusted his diving mask one final time before rolling backward off the research vessel Southern Cross. The warm waters of the Coral Sea embraced him as he descended toward what satellite imagery had suggested might be an unusual geological formation. At 38 years old, Marcus had spent nearly 2 decades exploring the ocean's mysteries, but nothing had prepared him for what waited in the depths below. The morning had started like any other research expedition. Dr. Sarah Williams, the marine archaeologist leading their team, had discovered an anomaly on sonar readings taken 3 weeks prior. The object appeared too geometric to be natural coral formation, too large to be a shipwreck from any known maritime disaster in the region. Located 47 nautical miles off the coast of Queensland, the site sat in relatively shallow waters at only 60 meters depth, making it accessible to experienced technical divers like Marcus. As he descended through the crystal-clear water, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary awaited him. Schools of tropical fish parted around his form, their brilliant colors dancing in the filtered sunlight that penetrated the ocean's surface. The familiar weight of his mixed-gas rebreather felt comforting against his back, while his underwater camera and powerful LED lights hung ready at his sides. At 40 meters depth, the first hints of something unusual began to emerge from the blue-green haze below. What initially appeared to be a strange coral formation gradually revealed itself as something far more remarkable. The object's surface exhibited a metallic sheen that seemed to shift and shimmer despite being covered in decades of marine growth. Barnacles, algae, and small corals had made the structure their home, but they couldn't completely obscure the underlying artificial nature of whatever lay beneath. Marcus felt his heart rate increase as he approached the massive structure. His depth gauge read 55 meters when he finally came close enough to touch the mysterious object. The surface felt smooth beneath his gloved hands, almost glass-like in texture despite appearing metallic from a distance. Most remarkable of all, the structure seemed to generate its own faint bioluminescent glow, barely perceptible, but definitely present. The object measured approximately 80 meters in length and 25 meters in width, with a streamlined shape that suggested it had been designed for movement through fluid environments. Despite its obvious artificial origin, the design bore no resemblance to any human technology Marcus had ever encountered. The hull curved in impossible ways, featuring smooth transitions between surfaces that seemed to flow like liquid metal frozen in time. Swimming along the structure's perimeter, Marcus documented everything with his underwater camera. The photos would need to be analyzed by experts, but even his untrained eye could see that this was no ordinary discovery. Strange symbols covered portions of the hull, appearing almost like a written language, but unlike any human script he recognized. The symbols seemed to be etched directly into the material rather than painted or attached, as if the metal itself had been shaped to form these intricate patterns. Near what appeared to be the front of the vessel, Marcus discovered an opening. The entrance looked deliberate rather than damage-related, with smooth edges that suggested it had been designed as an access point. His diving lights revealed that the opening led into the structure's interior, though the passage quickly disappeared into darkness beyond the reach of his illumination. Marcus checked his dive computer and gas supply. He had sufficient breathing gas for another 20 minutes at this depth, enough time for a preliminary exploration of the interior. Every instinct told him to proceed with caution, but his scientific curiosity proved stronger than his concern for personal safety. This could be the discovery of a lifetime. Swimming through the entrance, Marcus found himself in a corridor that defied explanation. The walls exhibited the same smooth, flowing design as the exterior, but here the bioluminescent glow was more pronounced. Soft blue-green light emanated from panels integrated seamlessly into the wall surfaces, providing enough illumination to see without his diving lights. The corridor extended deeper into the vessel, branching off in several directions. Marcus chose to follow the main passage, documenting everything with his camera as he proceeded. The architecture seemed designed for beings roughly human-sized, with ceiling heights and passage widths that would accommodate terrestrial humans comfortably. This similarity struck him as either an incredible coincidence or evidence of some deeper connection between the vessel's creators and humanity itself. After swimming for nearly 50 meters through the corridor, Marcus emerged into a vast chamber that took his breath away. The room stretched at least 30 meters in each direction, with a domed ceiling that rose high above his position. Bioluminescent panels covered every surface, creating an ethereal underwater cathedral of light and shadow. But the chamber's size wasn't what captured Marcus's attention. Throughout the space, strange crystalline structures grew from the floor, walls, and ceiling like an alien garden frozen in time. Each crystal formation pulsed with its own internal light, creating a mesmerizing display of colors that shifted and changed as he watched. The crystals seemed almost alive, responding to his presence with subtle changes in their luminous patterns. Swimming closer to examine one of the larger crystal formations, Marcus discovered that each structure contained what appeared to be complex internal geometries. Intricate patterns swirled within the translucent material, suggesting sophisticated technology rather than natural crystal growth. When he reached out to touch one of the smaller crystals, it responded with a brilliant flash of light that illuminated the entire chamber for several seconds. The response startled Marcus, causing him to drift backward through the water. As the light faded, he noticed that other crystals throughout the chamber had begun to pulse in synchronized patterns, as if his touch had awakened some dormant system. The bioluminescent panels in the walls brightened noticeably, revealing additional details about the chamber's construction and purpose. Along one wall, Marcus discovered what appeared to be a series of viewing windows or display panels. The transparent surfaces showed swirling patterns of light and color that seemed to represent some form of data or information. Though he couldn't interpret the meaning of these displays, their sophisticated nature suggested advanced technology far beyond current human capabilities. As he explored further, Marcus found evidence that the chamber had been designed for multiple occupants. Alcoves along the walls contained what might have been seating or workstations, each one positioned to provide an optimal view of the central crystal formations. The arrangement suggested that this space had served as some kind of control center or meeting place for the vessel's crew. Marcus checked his dive computer and realized that his bottom time was nearly exhausted. He needed to begin his ascent soon to avoid decompression sickness, but leaving this incredible discovery felt almost impossible. He spent his remaining minutes documenting the chamber from multiple angles, capturing as much detail as possible with his camera. Swimming back through the corridors toward the entrance, Marcus noticed details he had missed during his initial exploration. Small alcoves contained objects that might have been tools or equipment, though their purpose remained unclear. The walls themselves seemed to shift subtly in the light, as if the material possessed properties that defied conventional understanding of metals and alloys. As he emerged from the vessel back into open water, Marcus felt the weight of his discovery settling upon him. This was clearly not human technology, yet it had been sitting on the ocean floor off Australia's coast for an unknown period of time. The implications were staggering. During his decompression stops on the way to the surface, Marcus used his underwater slate to write preliminary notes about what he had observed. The vessel's obvious artificial nature, its advanced technology, and its non-human design all pointed to one incredible conclusion. This wasn't just an archaeological discovery, it was evidence that Earth had been visited by an intelligence from beyond the stars. The ascent to the surface seemed to take forever, giving Marcus time to process what he had witnessed. The crystal formations, the bioluminescent lighting, the sophisticated displays, All suggested a technology that surpassed human achievement by centuries or perhaps millennia. Yet the vessel's design seemed almost familiar in some ways, as if its creators had understood human needs and preferences. Breaking the surface beside the research vessel, Marcus was greeted by Dr. Williams and the rest of the dive team. The excitement in their voices was palpable as they helped him aboard and immediately began asking questions about what he had found below. Marcus pulled off his diving mask and looked at his colleagues with an expression they would later describe as a mixture of awe and disbelief. The words that came out of his mouth would change everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe. "We're not alone," Marcus said simply. "And we never have been." The implications of his discovery would soon ripple far beyond their small research vessel floating in the Coral Sea. Within hours, encrypted communications would reach government facilities around the world. Within days, the most brilliant minds in science and technology would converge on this remote location off Australia's coast. But for now, floating on the gentle swells under the afternoon sun, Marcus Chen had become the first human being to confirm what many had long suspected. Earth had been visited by an advanced alien civilization, and the evidence lay waiting in the depths below, preserved by the ocean's protective embrace for countless years. The vessel's secrets had barely begun to reveal themselves, but already it was clear that this discovery would reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. The technologies contained within that alien craft would challenge every assumption about physics, engineering, and the very nature of reality itself. As the research vessel began its journey back to port, Marcus stared down at the waters below, knowing that his life had been forever changed by what he had witnessed in the depths. The alien vessel waited in the darkness below, its mysteries intact, its technologies dormant but intact. Soon, the world would know what Marcus had discovered. Soon, everything would change. 3 days after Marcus Chen's initial discovery, the waters off Queensland's coast buzzed with activity that would have been unimaginable just a week earlier. The Australian government had moved with unprecedented speed to establish a secure perimeter around the discovery site, while teams of international experts arrived by military transport from around the globe. Dr. Elena Vasquez stepped off the helicopter onto the deck of the newly arrived research platform Endeavour. As the world's leading expert in xenoarchaeology, a field that had been purely theoretical until 72 hours ago, she felt the weight of history pressing down upon her shoulders. The encrypted files she had reviewed during her flight from Geneva contained images and data that challenged everything humanity thought it knew about its origins. The multinational task force assembled to investigate the alien vessel represented the finest minds in their respective fields. Marine archaeologists worked alongside theoretical physicists, while linguists collaborated with engineers to decode the mysteries that lay beneath the waves. The urgency was palpable. Everyone understood that this discovery would fundamentally alter human civilization. Commander James Harrison of the Royal Australian Navy had been placed in charge of security operations around the site. A veteran of numerous underwater salvage operations, he had never encountered anything that came close to the complexity of the current situation. His sonar operators reported that the alien vessel appeared to be growing more active since Marcus's initial exploration, with energy readings that fluctuated in patterns that suggested some form of automated response system. Dr. Williams led the next dive team down to the vessel. Accompanied by Marcus and 2 additional technical divers equipped with the most advanced underwater exploration technology available. This time, they carried specialized sensors designed to measure electromagnetic emissions, structural composition, and any form of energy output from the alien craft. As the team descended through the familiar blue waters, Marcus noticed immediately that something had changed. The vessel's bioluminescent glow appeared brighter and more dynamic than during his first visit. Patterns of light moved across the hull's surface like thoughts racing through a vast mechanical mind. The very water around the craft seemed charged with energy that made his dive equipment behave erratically. Swimming through the main entrance, the team discovered that the interior lighting had intensified dramatically. The corridor that had been dimly illuminated during Marcus's first exploration now blazed with soft, welcoming light that seemed to anticipate their movements. Sensors along the walls tracked their progress, adjusting the illumination to provide optimal visibility as they advanced deeper into the vessel. In the main chamber, the crystal formations had undergone a remarkable transformation. What had appeared as static structures during the initial dive now pulsed with complex patterns of energy that created three-dimensional holographic displays in the water around them. The displays showed star maps, mathematical equations, and what appeared to be historical records depicting the rise and fall of civilizations across the galaxy. Dr. Williams activated her specialized recording equipment, capturing everything in high-definition underwater video that would be analyzed by teams of experts on the surface. The holographic displays seemed to respond to their presence, shifting to show different information, as if the vessel's systems were attempting to communicate with the human explorers. Marcus approached one of the larger crystal formations, remembering how his touch had activated the chamber's systems during his first visit. This time, when he placed his gloved hand against the crystal's surface, the response was immediate and overwhelming. The entire chamber filled with swirling patterns of light that formed recognizable images, planets, star systems, and vast spacecraft moving through the cosmos. The images told a story that left the diving team speechless. They showed a galaxy-spanning civilization that had flourished millions of years before Earth's first complex life forms had emerged from the primordial oceans. This ancient race, tall, graceful beings with an obvious intelligence that surpassed even modern human capabilities, had explored countless worlds, seeding them with knowledge and technology that would help indigenous species evolve and thrive. But the holographic records also revealed a darker truth. The ancient civilization had faced a catastrophic threat that forced them to abandon their galaxy-spanning empire. The images showed massive ships fleeing across the void, carrying the survivors of an unimaginable disaster to distant corners of the universe. Some of these vessels had found their way to Earth, arriving during the planet's earliest stages of development. The implications were staggering. If the holographic records were accurate, then human civilization had been influenced by alien contact from its very beginning. The vessel's archives contained evidence of multiple visits to Earth throughout history, each one carefully documented in crystal formations that served as both storage devices and computational matrices. Swimming through additional chambers revealed the true scope of the alien vessel's capabilities. Advanced laboratories contained equipment that seemed designed for biological research and genetic manipulation. Manufacturing facilities showed evidence of technologies that could transform raw materials into complex devices through processes that appeared almost magical in their sophistication. Dr. Williams discovered a chamber that appeared to be dedicated to educational purposes. Holographic displays showed detailed information about countless alien species, their biological characteristics, cultural developments, and technological achievements. The diversity of intelligent life represented in these records suggested that the galaxy had once teemed with civilizations that had worked together in a vast, cooperative network. But perhaps the most remarkable discovery came when Marcus encountered what appeared to be the vessel's central control center. The chamber contained a single massive crystal formation that dwarfed all the others, its internal structure so complex that it seemed to contain entire universes of information. When he approached this central crystal, it projected a holographic interface that seemed designed specifically for human interaction. The interface displayed symbols that gradually transformed into recognizable human languages, starting with ancient scripts and evolving through Sanskrit, Latin, and eventually modern English. The message that appeared sent shockwaves through the diving team that would soon reverberate around the world. Welcome, children of Earth. We have been waiting for you to find us. The communication system that emerged from the central crystal was sophisticated beyond anything in human technology. It accessed the divers' brain patterns through their diving equipment's electronic systems, creating a direct neural interface that allowed for complex communication without the need for spoken language. The experience was unlike anything any of them had ever imagined possible. Through this interface, the vessel's artificial intelligence began to share information that would revolutionize human understanding of the universe. The ancient civilization that had built this ship called themselves the Archivists, and their mission was to preserve knowledge and guide the development of younger species throughout the galaxy. They had visited Earth repeatedly throughout human history, subtly influencing the development of human civilization by sharing carefully selected technologies and concepts. The mathematical principles that had led to humanity's greatest scientific breakthroughs, the inspiration behind Earth's most profound philosophical insights, even the genetic mutations that had accelerated human brain development. All of these had been influenced by archivist interventions over the millennia. Humanity's rapid technological advancement during the past century had been particularly guided, as the archivists had recognized that Earth's species was approaching the threshold necessary for direct contact. But the artificial intelligence also revealed troubling information about humanity's future. The same catastrophic threat that had destroyed the archivists' galactic civilization was moving through the universe, consuming entire star systems and leaving nothing but empty space in its wake. Earth lay directly in the path of this approaching destruction, and humanity had perhaps centuries rather than millennia to prepare for the ultimate test of survival. The vessel contained technologies that could help humanity defend itself, but only if the species could demonstrate the wisdom and unity necessary to use such power responsibly. The archivists had learned from bitter experience that advanced weapons in the hands of a divided civilization led inevitably to self-destruction. Humanity would need to prove its readiness before the vessel's most powerful secrets could be safely revealed. As the diving team prepared to return to the surface, the artificial intelligence made one final communication that would shape everything that followed. Hidden throughout Earth's oceans were additional archivist vessels, each one containing specialized knowledge and technologies that humanity would need for its survival. The locations of these vessels would be revealed gradually, as human civilization demonstrated its growing maturity and wisdom. The ascent to the surface took place in contemplative silence as each team member processed the magnitude of what they had learned. Marcus found himself thinking about the strange patterns he had noticed in human history, the seemingly inexplicable leaps in knowledge that had propelled civilization forward. Now those patterns made perfect sense. Humanity had never been alone in its development. Breaking the surface beside the research platform, the diving team emerged into a world that was about to change forever. The encrypted communications they would send to government facilities around the globe would trigger responses that had been planned in theoretical scenarios but never expected to become reality. First contact protocols that had existed only in classified documents would suddenly become humanity's most important operational procedures. Dr. Williams uploaded their video recordings to secure servers, while Marcus provided detailed debriefings to intelligence analysts who had been flown in from every major nation on Earth. The information they shared painted a picture of humanity's future that was simultaneously hopeful and terrifying. Advanced alien technology offered solutions to every major challenge facing human civilization, but at a cost that required fundamental changes in how the species organized itself. The vessel's artificial intelligence had made it clear that the knowledge contained within the archivist archives would only be shared with a unified human civilization. As long as Earth's nations remained divided by conflict and competition, the most advanced technologies would remain locked away. Humanity would need to achieve unprecedented cooperation if it hoped to access the tools necessary for long-term survival. Within hours of the team's return to the surface, encrypted communications reached the highest levels of government in every major nation. Emergency sessions of the United Nations Security Council were called, while scientific advisors briefed world leaders on the implications of the discovery. The existence of the alien vessel could not remain secret for long, but revealing its contents to the public would require careful management to prevent worldwide panic. As night fell over the research platform, Marcus stood on deck looking down at the dark waters that concealed one of the most significant discoveries in human history. The weight of responsibility felt overwhelming. The information he had helped uncover would shape humanity's future for generations to come. The choices made in the coming days and weeks would determine whether Earth's species would rise to meet the challenges ahead or fragment under the pressure of its greatest test. Below the waves, the alien vessel waited with infinite patience, its artificial intelligence monitoring human communications and analyzing the species' response to the revelation of its existence. The archivists had faced this same moment of truth millions of years earlier, and their failure had led to the destruction of their civilization. Whether humanity would prove wiser than its predecessors remained to be seen. The real test was just beginning. 6 weeks after Marcus Chen's discovery, the world watched in stunned silence as the Secretary-General of the United Nations prepared to address a joint session of the General Assembly. The emergency gathering had been called following weeks of speculation and leaked reports about unusual military activity in the waters off Australia's coast. Government officials from every nation had maintained strict silence, but the truth was too significant to remain hidden forever. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat in the gallery, her hands trembling slightly as she held a classified folder containing the most comprehensive analysis of the alien vessel completed to date. The document represented the combined efforts of over 300 scientists, engineers, and linguists from 47 nations working in unprecedented cooperation. What they had discovered would challenge every assumption about humanity's place in the universe. Marcus stood on the deck of the research platform Endeavour, now permanently stationed above the alien vessel. In the weeks since his initial discovery, he had made dozens of dives to the craft, each one revealing new wonders that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. The vessel's artificial intelligence had grown increasingly communicative, sharing information at a carefully measured pace that seemed designed to prevent humanity from becoming overwhelmed by the magnitude of its revelations. The broadcast began with images that had been carefully selected to prepare the global audience for what they were about to learn. Video footage from inside the alien vessel showed the crystalline chambers with their holographic displays, the advanced technologies that seemed to operate on principles beyond current human comprehension, and the artificial intelligence that had been waiting patiently for humanity to achieve sufficient maturity for direct contact. As the Secretary-General began to speak, her words carried the weight of history. Humanity had always wondered whether it was alone in the universe, and now the answer had been definitively revealed. The species was part of a vast cosmic community that spanned millions of years and countless civilizations, though most of those civilizations had fallen to a threat that was now approaching Earth itself. The revelation that human development had been quietly guided by alien intervention throughout history sent shockwaves around the globe. Archaeological evidence that had puzzled researchers for decades suddenly made perfect sense when viewed through the lens of outside influence. The rapid advancement of human technology, the seemingly spontaneous emergence of advanced mathematical and scientific concepts, the mysterious acceleration of human brain evolution, all of these could be explained by careful archivist intervention over millennia. But the most stunning revelation came when the Secretary General announced that the alien vessel had revealed the locations of 6 additional ships hidden throughout Earth's oceans. Each vessel contained specialized knowledge that humanity would need to defend itself against the approaching cosmic threat. The technologies available included advanced propulsion systems capable of faster-than-light travel, energy sources that could power entire civilizations, and defensive systems that could protect planets from virtually any attack. However, accessing these technologies came with conditions that would require fundamental changes in how human civilization organized itself. The archivist artificial intelligence had made it clear that the advanced knowledge would only be shared with a species that had achieved true unity. As long as human nations remained divided by conflict and competition, the most powerful technologies would remain locked away in their crystalline storage matrices. The announcement triggered responses that varied dramatically across different regions of the world. Some nations immediately called for the establishment of a unified global government that could meet the archivist's conditions for accessing advanced technologies. Others expressed concern about surrendering national sovereignty to an international body, regardless of the potential benefits such cooperation might bring. Marcus watched these developments from his unique position at the center of the discovery. The alien vessel had become his second home over the past weeks, and he had developed an almost personal relationship with the artificial intelligence that managed its systems. Through their neural interface communications, he had learned that the archivists viewed humanity's current challenges as a natural part of species development. Every civilization faced similar tests of unity and wisdom before being trusted with technologies that could either ensure survival or guarantee destruction. The vessel's archives contained records of hundreds of species that had faced the same choice now confronting humanity. Some had achieved the necessary unity and used archivist technologies to build defensive systems that protected their worlds for millions of years. Others had failed to overcome their internal divisions and had either destroyed themselves with advanced weapons or fallen to the cosmic threat without adequate preparation. The artificial intelligence had shown Marcus holographic records of the approaching danger that made the choice facing humanity stark and unavoidable. The entity responsible for destroying civilizations throughout the galaxy was unlike anything in human experience or imagination. It consumed entire star systems, converting matter and energy into extensions of itself in a process that left nothing but empty space behind. The threat moved slowly by cosmic standards, but inevitably, and Earth lay directly in its projected path. Calculations suggested that humanity had approximately 2 centuries to prepare adequate defenses, assuming the entity maintained its current rate of expansion. However, the technologies required to mount an effective defense were so advanced that even with archivist assistance, developing them would require the combined resources and knowledge of the entire planet, working in perfect coordination. Dr. Powell Williams led another dive team to one of the newly revealed vessel locations, this one hidden in the deep waters of the Pacific Ocean near Hawaii. The ship they discovered was larger than the original find, with specialized chambers that appeared designed for manufacturing advanced technologies. The artificial intelligence aboard this vessel was even more sophisticated, capable of designing and producing devices that seemed to operate on principles that human science had not yet discovered. The holographic displays in this vessel showed detailed schematics for defensive systems that could protect an entire planet from cosmic-scale threats. Energy shields that could deflect attacks capable of destroying stars, automated manufacturing systems that could build fleets of defensive spacecraft in a matter of years, and communication networks that could coordinate defensive efforts across multiple star systems. The scale of the technologies available was almost beyond human comprehension. But accessing these manufacturing capabilities required resources that exceeded what any single nation could provide. The energy requirements alone would necessitate building entirely new types of power plants using principles that human science was only beginning to understand. The raw materials needed included elements that were rare on Earth and would require mining operations throughout the solar system. Most challenging of all, the complexity of the manufacturing processes required a level of global coordination that humanity had never achieved. As weeks turned into months, the pressure for global unity intensified. The archivist artificial intelligences had made their conditions absolutely clear. The advanced technologies would only be unlocked when humanity demonstrated its ability to work together as a single species rather than a collection of competing nations. Every attempt to access the most advanced systems without meeting this condition resulted in the same response. The technologies remained locked behind security protocols that were impossible to bypass. Meanwhile, scientists working with the basic technologies that the vessels had already revealed made discoveries that revolutionized multiple fields simultaneously. New energy storage systems that could power cities for years using devices the size of car batteries. Medical technologies that could cure diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. Communication systems that enabled instantaneous contact across any distance. Even these limited revelations transformed human civilization in ways that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. Marcus found himself at the center of increasingly intense negotiations between world leaders who recognized that traditional concepts of national sovereignty might need to be reconsidered in light of humanity's new circumstances. The alien vessels had become more than just archaeological discoveries. They represented humanity's only hope for long-term survival, but accessing their full potential required changes that challenged every assumption about how human society should be organized. The artificial intelligence aboard the original vessel had begun sharing more detailed information about the cosmic threat approaching Earth. The entity was ancient beyond human comprehension, possibly older than the galaxy itself. It had consumed countless civilizations over millions of years, growing stronger with each conquest. The archivists themselves had barely escaped its advance, and their galaxy-spanning empire had been reduced to a handful of surviving ships carrying refugees to distant corners of the universe. But the artificial intelligence also shared something that gave humanity hope. The cosmic entity was not invincible. It could be stopped by civilizations that achieved sufficient unity and advanced technology. The defensive systems contained within the archivist vessels represented millions of years of accumulated knowledge about combating this threat. Previous civilizations had successfully defended their worlds, though doing so required sacrifices and changes that transformed their entire way of existence. As the first year since the discovery drew to a close, humanity faced the most significant choice in its history. The technologies needed to defend Earth were available, but accessing them would require fundamental changes in how the species organized itself. National boundaries would need to become administrative conveniences rather than barriers to cooperation. Resource allocation would need to be based on planetary needs rather than national interests. Most challenging of all, humanity would need to develop the wisdom to use advanced technologies responsibly rather than as weapons against itself. Marcus stood on the deck of the research platform one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors above the alien vessel that had started humanity's greatest transformation. The weight of the species' future pressed down upon him, but he also felt a growing sense of hope. The conversations he had shared with the archivist artificial intelligence had convinced him that humanity possessed the potential to meet the challenges ahead. The alien vessel pulsed with gentle light beneath the waves, its systems monitoring human communications and analyzing the species' progress toward unity. The archivists had faced this same test millions of years earlier and had failed, allowing their civilization to fragment under pressure and fall to the cosmic threat they might have defeated. Whether humanity would prove wiser than its predecessors remained to be seen. But as Marcus looked up at the stars that had once seemed distant and unreachable, he understood that humanity's future lay not just on Earth, but among those distant lights. The technologies contained within the alien vessels offered not just defense against cosmic threats, but the tools necessary to join the galactic community of intelligent species. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and its greatest adventure was just beginning. The choice that would determine everything lay ahead. Humanity could continue its patterns of division and conflict, remaining forever limited to a single planet, and ultimately falling to threats too large for any one world to face alone. Or it could choose unity, accessing technologies that would transform the species into something greater than the sum of its parts, capable of defending itself and eventually exploring the vast cosmos that awaited beyond Earth's atmosphere. The vessels waited patiently in the depths, their artificial intelligences ready to share the knowledge that could save humanity. But that knowledge would only be granted to a species wise enough to use it responsibly. The test was not just about survival. It was about proving that humanity deserved to join the cosmic community of intelligent life that spanned the universe. The future of human civilization would be determined not by any single nation or leader, but by the collective choice of an entire species. The alien vessels had given humanity the ultimate gift, the chance to transcend its limitations and become something truly extraordinary. Whether that gift would be accepted or squandered remained the greatest question in human history. Deep beneath the waves, ancient technologies awaited humanity's answer.